Hey, what's up? This is Thomas Ian Nicholas, the dude from the American Pie movies. You probably don't know about my band yet, but you will, because you're listening to Morgan Richards on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM, so don't turn the dial.
Hey, I'm Morgan Richards from Radio Cardiff from 98.7 FM. I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined in the studio today by a man of many talents. He's an actor, musician, producer, director and writer, all the way from lovely Los Angeles. It's the wonderful Thomas Nicholas.
Hey, Morgan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, Tom, you right?
I'm good, man. Yeah, happy to be back in Cardiff again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? How's things?
Things are good. You know, the tour was a good success, so much so that we're talking about possibly coming back again in September of this year for Freshers Week.
Okay.
So we don't have it, solidified or anything. We sort of came up with the plan just because we were having so much fun, and we were here 2 years ago on a tour, and it took us 2 years to get back, and I don't want to let that much time go by again.
Of course, yeah.
I'd like to at least play once a year, hopefully twice.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So Tom, of course, over the years you've been best known and most popular for your acting and roles in many big and amazing films, in a staggering 20-plus years career, starring in such hits as Rookie of the Year and, of course, the iconic American Pie movie series. But most recently, over the last few years, it seems that your main focus and passion, without a doubt, has been your music.
Oh, for sure. I mean, luckily I don't have to choose between the two. I just have to kind of schedule them both with each other so they don't get in each other's way. So I've got a new EP that's out. That's what we're touring around promoting right now, the Security EP that has Matt Kennedy, who is from the now former Dangerous Summer, that has just recently broken up. And then I've got a few films that are in the can. One that I shot earlier this year called Walt Before Mickey, where I play Walt Disney before he creates Mickey Mouse. So it's his, like, from 18 to 28, his, like, sort of early failures and everything, which is really inspiring because I never knew that Walt Disney failed, but in his early life and career, he went bankrupt. And then I've also shot a TV pilot that's produced by Spielberg, so waiting to hear if that gets picked up to go to series, where I actually play a rock musician on the show. So I think the two worlds are converging again, kind of like they did on American Reunion when I landed a song on the soundtrack, which, despite anyone thinking that I just placed a phone call and it happened, I've been making music longer than I've been making American Pie films. So I tried to get a song on all of the soundtracks, 1, 2, Wedding, and it just didn't work out. So I stopped trying, and the directors saw me play a live acoustic show, much like the tour I just did here in the UK, and that was what landed me the song on the soundtrack. So you'll definitely have to catch me next time, because apparently my live shows are all right. All right enough to land me songs on soundtracks.
Yeah, because music has always been something very close to you, and you actually started playing guitar from a very young age. But really, over the past 6-7 years, you've picked up that passion, outright, really, writing some absolutely brilliant mixtures of old school rock and acoustic albums as TNB, of course, your self-titled Thomas Nicholas band. Oh,
thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, in the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of playing like 400 shows, and also, still making films. There's two other ones that are in the can that I've produced and starred in. One of them's called The Lost Tree with Michael Madsen and Lacey Chabert, and then another one's called Living Among Us with William Sadler, John Hurt, and James Russo. So, I also have a wife and a 2.5-year-old son, so I'm very, very busy these days.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, well, that's fair enough then. And of course, just quite recently, you released a brand new 4-track EP titled Security back at the beginning of April, with it being your 5th major release to date. And listening to it, I have to say, it seems to be a bit more of an indie kind of alternative feel to it compared to some of your previous material. That was a bit more punk rocky.
Yeah, I took a little change just to kind of change it up. I mean, I think obviously pop punk and everything does a lot better over here in the UK. In the States, it seems that if you didn't have a hit in the 90s and you sound like you're from the 90s, you're not going anywhere currently. And the indie rock scene is something that I really kind of got hip to. My wife is a DJ. She spins Chicago house music, like full on, like old school house. And she hit me to Phoenix, which, as far as I know, I don't know if Phoenix is widely known over here. It seems everyone that I mentioned Phoenix to in the UK is like, which band? But when they came out with Listomania, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I heard another song, and I thought it was Phoenix, but it ended up being Temper Trap.
Okay.
And then I kind of got into it and started like hearing like Foster the People and then Atlas Genius, and I realized that there was this cool movement. I was like, I want to be a part of that because I really dug the sound. And I hadn't had that kind of a reaction to music since the days of grunge in the 90s when I started playing. And so I met up with this guy named Caleb Turman, who is in a band called Forever the Sickest Kids. And I don't really dig the Forever the Sickest Kids in the same way because, you know, their main fan base is like 14 years old in America. But I was like, Caleb was just such a great guy, and I knew that he could like retune my brain because every time I pick up a guitar, it sounds like Nirvana or Foo Fighters. And so I wanted to just kind of do something different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm not signed to a label, so I can just change my sound on a whim, and no one's going to give me any flack about it.
No. And as you just mentioned, with this EP, you actually teamed up and co-wrote a couple of tracks with Caleb Turman of Dallas Pop Punkers Forever the Sickest Kids. Did you feel writing with him helped you open up to a lot more of ideas?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was the type of thing where I think the new EP has a mixture of that because it's more indie rock, but it still has, if I can say this on the air, the balls of, you know, that grunge sound or that post-grunge sound. And so, yeah, he was off tour for a minute and in Portland. So I flew to Portland and we hung out for 4 days and we wrote 10 songs and, you know, and played backgammon. It sounds real exciting in rock and roll, but there, you know, there were some other things mixed in there, some IPA beers and such.
Okay. Awesome. And now with the recording progress of this EP, there's a couple of things I found very interesting, with one of them being that the instruments were actually all recorded across 3 parts of America in LA, Nashville, and Chicago.
Yeah. It was basically because I'm constantly touring, and as we had gotten the tour locked in for the UK to do the Acoustic Madness tour, you know, ending with Hit the Deck, I was like, I told Matt, I said, we've got these new songs, you know, we should just have something to bring with us. So we raced to finish it, and we decided that while I was on tour with Matt, who, as I mentioned, was in The Dangerous Summer. Prior to that, he was in a band called The Graduate and had done a tour in the UK with them. So I was on tour with Tim and Jared, the bass player and drummer from The Graduate, as well as Matt, and we just sort of decided like, hey, let's record this EP. So we popped into a studio in the middle of tour, recorded some stuff, and then when I got back home, I recorded some stuff, and Matt had just recently moved from LA to Nashville. So I was like, well, just record some stuff and send it to me. And then I flew the drummer to Los Angeles. So yeah, we were just all over the place, but we finished the 4-song EP in about 2 weeks from start to finish, like from first recording to mastered.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, so good to hear that it actually all came together in time then.
Yeah, it was a little stressful, but yeah, it did.
Yeah. Okay. And someone you've mentioned quite a lot already is obviously Matt Kennedy, who's been quite a big part of the band over the last couple of years. Most people will know him, as you said, as being a former member of The Dangerous Summer and the band Grudge, because, you know, he has appeared a lot with you recently on recordings and touring.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sad that The Dangerous Summer is broken up, but it's sort of positive news for me because that means that I get to have Matt tour with me more often than not. And then, you know, like I said, I'm excited that we get to come back, you know, hopefully sooner than later. And, you know, it's cool, man. I really dig Wales because Ramesh is a friend of Matt's, and he got us sort of the gig that we did at Bunker for Team Up, sort of the American frat party where I get to press play on some turntables. And then we also, our sound engineer / tour manager / driver on this last tour is from Wrexham. So he kind of saved us on the tour 2 years ago. We had some bumps in the road, as most tours do, but we had like last minute cancellations, and we didn't know how we were going to get around, and he just like took us under his wing. So I have a strong affinity to Wales for all of those reasons.
Oh, awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And also on this Security EP, I understand that you and Matt actually both self-produced it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I wrote it with Caleb while Matt was off with The Dangerous Summer, but, you know, I definitely needed, you know, some other input. I've never really like wanted to produce my own album, but we just didn't have the budget to bring someone on. Of course, we did get to bring on Brian Virtue to mix it, and, you know, I was like, listen, Matt, even if we mess up, Brian Virtue's going to make it all right because he's mixing it, and he's mixed the Deftones and Audio Slave in 30 Seconds to Mars, so he'll sort it out for us.
Yeah, not bad, is it?
Yeah.
And of course, both you and Matt have just recently toured toured across the UK, doing a very special Acoustic Madness tour, performing, of course, TNB material on the odd cover here and there. How did it go?
It went well, man. You know, the comment that I got is that, and we don't have this expression in the U.S., so but I like the expression that people told us that while we were playing, it was like we were just up there having a laugh. If you said that in the U.S., they would be like, is it a comedy show? I don't understand. But that's just kind of how we are, especially in the acoustic environment. We just wanted people to feel, you know, warm and welcome. But without us even like saying that that was our goal, I got that comment back from people when we would hang out at merch afterwards, that everyone just kind of felt like, it was like, yeah, it was just a good vibe. And, you know, it's almost like you're in our living room, except there's no couches and there's a giant PA system.
Yeah. So it was a bit more relaxed then, considering it was only your second time ever touring here in the UK.
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, this tour, you know, went off pretty well. I mean, we're still building everything, obviously, which is why we did this one acoustic. But the goal is to eventually be over here with the full band and, you know, not in a Honda HRV, but, you know, in maybe like a splitter van or such.
Yeah.
With a driver, so we don't have to make, you know, our sound engineer, Mike Edwards, drive and mix and tour manage.
Now, one thing I actually wanted to mention to you, Tom, was the fact that on your previous release back in 2012 with the self-titled TNB EP, you actually did a cover of the hit track Laid by James, which of course was the official theme song for the American Pie films that you starred in. After, of course, acting being such a big part of your life, as we mentioned earlier, and still is really, it's great to see that you're not trying to shy away from that and that you can combine the two together and have everything with your career.
Yeah, thanks, man. I definitely am not shying away from that. You know, it's kind of like the only person that I've seen do it successfully to transition from acting or into music is Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars. But I thought it was always odd that, you know, during that stint of like really bringing the band up as he did, he stated that acting was like waiting tables. It was just something he was doing because music was really what he wanted to do. And then he turns around and does Dallas Buyers Club and wins an Oscar. So I, on the other hand, plan on, you know, hopefully, God willing, having the same sort of, you know, run, maybe not to their extent or whatever, but, you know, just being able to tour around and entertain people. But I'm not going to denounce one or the other. I'm always going to do both. I'll be 70 years old and I'll still be playing music and still be acting in films.
Yeah, okay. And as you mentioned before, on that EP as well, the main single you released from that record, My Generation, was actually used in the most recent American Pie reunion soundtrack as well. So it's just great to see that you can use, you know, those two passions together and combine them, really.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was so thankful to get that song on the soundtrack. And yeah, I don't, you know, I don't mind, like, it's not like I try to hide one. I think on the Acoustic Madness tour, for most of the shows, we opened up with the cover of Laid, just to sort of like point out the elephant in the room, you know, before anyone else could. You know, and a lot of times, like even this, when I come on to do radio interviews, people are like, oh, is it okay if we ask you about the movies? Dude, my career is my career, and I love what I do, and I'm so thankful that I get to do that, you know, and if, I don't know, if people weren't interested, that would be worse than if they were, so I don't shy away from any of it.
Oh, great to hear. And while we're actually talking about your acting, a couple of years ago, you actually featured in a music video for some very good friends of yours in UK rock giants Maori Knox for their track Wake Up.
Yes, because of Mike Edwards, our sound engineer, sort of jumping on and helping us on the tour 2 years ago, and then I had another friend that at the time was working for Sony UK. Well, he was like engaged to my friend, so I called my friend. I was like, listen, will you ask if they can help us book some last minute shows? So he got us on the Underground Fest in Gloucester. So we were meant to play the BBC stage at the Underground Fest. And then Mike asked us, he's like, hey, I mix sound for Mallory Knox, which I don't think he is anymore, but at the time he was. And he's like, would you be interested in possibly having a full band at the festival? And we're like, of course, you know, we were supposed to have a full band on the tour, but it all kind of like, you know, like I said, there was some bumps in the road, so we didn't have the drummer and bass player. And so they agreed to do it in exchange for me being in their music video for Wake Up. So we literally went to Sam's, you know, mom's house and rehearsed in the living room, which is also where we slept on the floor later that that tour. And then yeah, we came back from the festival, and we actually, when we went to the festival, because they heard that we had a full band, and then I think Gnarl Wolves had to cancel at the last minute, they bumped us from the BBC stage to the main stage. Oh, wow. So we got to open up for Canterbury and The Dangerous Summer and Lower Than Atlantis and Don Broco. So we got to meet all those guys, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Mike Deuce let us use his amps, which was cool. And then that was, I think, where Matt knew The Dangerous Summer from the Graduate days, but he reconnected with them.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how I lost Matt for about 2 years.
All right, okay.
But now he's back.
Yeah, well, great to hear. Because, you know, it seems like you really hit it off with those Mary Knox guys, because on that tour in the UK at the Peterborough show, I understand that Sam and Mickey actually came to saw you, and ended up Mickey singing on stage the cover
Yeah,
of a Foo Fighters track.
He didn't want to at all, but, you know, the power of the microphone compelled him. Because once I asked the entire crowd that if they wanted him to come up and sing, then, you know, Mikey really couldn't say no. So, yeah, it was cool that the guys came out, and we hung out with them afterwards. We stayed at Mikey's place for a couple of days. So, yeah, those are good guys, and I'm glad to know them. And, you know, who knows, maybe one day we'll get to tour with them now that they're, you know, at the time, they hadn't quite, like, blown up yet. So I don't necessarily know if we could get the same graces to have them come. But who knows, you know? Yeah. I mean, I think musicians stick together. There's an unspoken creed that we all follow. So
yeah, so hopefully we'll see you on maybe a tour of Mary Knox
one day. We'll see.
Now, Tom, just a couple more things before you go. Obviously, as you mentioned, you want to try and get back to the UK in around September time for another tour. Do you have any more information on that maybe? Or?
Well, I think we're going to try to do something because, you know, I'm still, again, trying to build things. So we were thinking about maybe doing like a Freshers Week club tour.
Okay.
Something where, you know, maybe doing a club tour, there would already be a lot of kids already there. And so then it would be the opportunity to hang out, maybe just play a few songs and sort of get the word out a little bit more, so that when we come back again in 2015, you know, maybe more people know that I actually play and sing.
Okay. And then that September tour, you guys going to do a full band set now? Or?
It would probably be acoustic again.
Okay.
And then we would probably do maybe a couple of, like, you know, actual venues in conjunction with the club tour. Again, none of this is sorted. You know, we're going to put feelers out and see if we can make it happen.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I'm always trying to get over here. I've got feelers out for, you know, Leeds and Reading. Like, can I get on the acoustic stage somewhere? Just, you know, like open up in the beginning. I don't know, man. I love the UK in general. The first time I came over here was in 1994. And at one point I thought I was even going to move to the UK. So, and then I watched that Tom Petty documentary where he didn't really hit in the States until he kind of came over to the UK and Europe and such. So I kind of had it in my mind, like, I want to like break the market here, because I think there's just a little bit more, people are a little bit more receptive to the sound that I have than they are in the US.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll be able to sort some more shows out in the UK very soon. We can see you again then.
Yeah, that is the plan, Morgan. That is the plan.
Okay. All right. Well, awesome. And can we expect anything else from you maybe now in the near future, or?
Well, there's all those jobs that I talked about. I guess the next sort of up would be if the TV pilot gets picked up to series.
Okay.
Then that would be probably the next thing on the horizon. Other than that would be maybe the Walt Disney film might come out later this year.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, that's about it. Cheers, Tom, for coming in and having a chat with us.
Yeah.
Good luck, and hopefully we'll be able to see you again in the UK very soon, and hopefully I can catch you again then.
Yeah, we'd love to, man. If we get the privilege of playing Cardiff again, we will do that.
Okay, well, great. And cheers, Tom.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on the show, Morgan.